Hello there! Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And this is episode 66. Actually, wait.
Execute Order 66. It will be done, my lord.
Anyway, today we are looking through 4 of the final episodes, not the final, but 4 of the final episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 5. That would be Revival, and then the 3rd Mandalore arc of The Clone Wars. That would be Eminence, Shades of Reason, and The Lawless. But Jacob and I are not alone for this endeavor. Who do we got, Jacob? Who do we got with us?
We are joined by 2 very special guests, Meg and Davor. Hello, you guys. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
We are doing good.
As longtime listeners of the show will know Meg and Davor. Meg, I think this is your 5th time on In a Galaxy, and Davor, I think this is your 3rd time on the show.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm not sure which one is more impressive, that we've invited you on that many times, or that I remembered how many times we've invited you on.
Wait. Do I still hold the record for being on the most times?
Oh yes, by far.
Yes.
I'm
by
keeping
far.
it. Fantastic.
The only person who even comes anywhere close is the guy sitting next to you. So
You will never beat me.
I probably won't.
Never.
No.
Thank you.
I said the only person who comes close. He doesn't even really. Anyway,
Whoa.
wait, man, I'm causing all sorts of drama today. Cool stuff. Anyway, in Revival, there is an attack on a space station in the Outer Rim by Darth Maul and Savage Opress. The 2 of them are on the hunt, and they're looking for new ways to expand their resources. They have a little discussion in the base, which they hijacked, about where to go from there. And then we flash to later when Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi Master Igalia tour the facility where they attacked and learn from some droids that they're going to the Surtar sector, which is where Florum is. And there's this very ominous line where Adigalia asks Obi-Wan, "What's on Florum?" And he goes, "Pirates." Anyway, so Maul and Savage take some of Hondo Ohnaka's men as their own. By the way, good to note here that even though this episode is the first episode of Season 5, this takes place after the Gathering arc, in where General Grievous absolutely shreds Hondo's base to the ground. So Hondo is operating out of a half-broken base anyway. Some of Hondo's men and Maul and Savage attack the base, creating this pirate civil war. And then Obi-Wan and Adigalia find them. There's a long duel. Hondo manages to convince all of his men to come back to him from Maul and Savage. Obi-Wan and Maul duel, and so do Adigalia and Savage. It ends in a stalemate for Obi-Wan and Maul, but Savage butchers and strikes down Adigalia in front of Obi-Wan, and then Hondo leaves the 2 of them alone with Obi-Wan while he gets an ambush ready. Obi-Wan absolutely wrecks the 2 of them before they try to get in a ship and escape, but then Hondo and his men blow up the ship, and they're assumed dead. But if we know anything about Darth Maul, is that guy does not stay dead! Anyway, they get in an escape pod. Did I say that out loud? They get in an escape pod, Maul and Savage, and drift through space until they are found in Eminence. Fortune cookie is: strength of character can defeat strength in number. Anyone want to start us off with this one? I could say some stuff.
So, the immediate reaction that I had when I was reminded of this fortune cookie was, who is it about? Because like the strength in numbers, is that like Hondo and the crew? And then the strength of character is Maul, and so like who is who here? I was a little confused.
I was confused as well, but I thought this could apply to two different things. I felt like in the end of the episode, I think maybe Obi-Wan, when he is forced, maybe a very literal interpretation. Obi-Wan, he is forced to take on Savage and Maul. And he manages to actually do quite a bit of damage, and also escape in one piece, which is pretty impressive. So maybe the idea is that, you know, because he has this strength of purpose as this great Jedi dedicated to being the guardian of peace and justice, maybe that way he's able to overcome great odds. I think that also this could apply to Maul and Savage in terms of them learning the lesson that a hastily created plan with a lot of pirates and a lot of firepower is still no match for the master and the apprentice, as they later do, trying to bide their time and really come up with a good plan. So I think that I found this this fortune cookie a little weird for the episode, but that was kind of what I had figured it applied to. Probably one of those two.
I was going to conclude the same thing as Jacob's first conclusion, which is the idea of it being about Maul and Savage versus Obi-Wan. I do think this is a really good fortune cookie. I'm not exactly sure how well it fits with this episode. Like, this could be a really good fortune cookie for, like, something else Star Wars. You know, I was thinking of, like, you know, there were probably more Star Destroyers on Exegol than there were people of the People's Fleet, but there are more of us, Poe, and they win because, you know, they're the good guys and they have the strength of character. Same thing with the Ewoks and the Imperial troops on Endor. Same thing with, you know, you can count the examples, but I think it's a very good Star Wars fortune cookie. I'm not exactly sure, as Jacob said, how well it fits the episode, though if I had to guess how it would fit the episode, I would go with Obi-Wan versus Maul and Savage, because there is even a line, I think I think it's Savage who says this. No, Maul who says this. We are two, and you are no match for us.
Oh.
And it's like, it's right there, you know. Strength and numbers can be defeated by strength of character. So, yeah, that's just my thought.
Yeah, you definitely make that make sense. Obviously,
yeah,
it's
a weird
Star
fortune
Wars,
cookie.
this is a big theme. Yeah, it does feel a little weird for this episode. You know, how it's all about this upwelling of the dark side and Maul coming back. And then it's like, no, but the good guys will still win. Woo!
Hopefully. That's the thing. It's like, the good guys will still win, woo, and then look how these 4 episodes end.
Yeah.
I really didn't get it either, or how it related to the episode, but you guys are great at explaining things, so I'm with you. I got you.
I think it's a very literal fortune cookie. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's some way,
Not
and then the fortune cookies just sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I remember there was a specific I think we were talking about this around, I think this was this summer when we were talking about nomad droids. Who's more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? I'm like, okay, they just gave up on the fortune cookie for that episode. They just put it Obi-Wan. They just gave up. They couldn't figure out anything. They just were like.
Yeah, that is both like a well-known saying and also an Obi-Wan quote. They're just
like
that one.
I'm just imagining now, like Dave and the writers around like a fortune cookie assembly board, and they're like, "Okay, what are we doing? No one? Okay, we're just gonna slap a random Obi-Wan quote on it."
Yeah, it was like almost 5 o'clock. It was like the end of the day. It was like a Friday. They're just like, we need a fortune cookie. Copy and paste.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Just a total deadline panic. Had no idea what to do. Okay,
exactly.
think of something, anything at all.
Dash it off.
Yeah.
I was thinking about a lot about this episode in general, which is an interesting idea for me, I guess, which is that this episode might possibly be the weirdest episode in season 5. And I don't mean that from a story perspective. I mean that because every single other episode in this season is in a story arc, and this one really isn't. Like, we don't have standalones in season 5. Those don't exist. I'm trying to think of a meme. Jacob, you can probably help me identify the meme. It's the "no, we don't do that here" meme. Do you know what meme I'm talking about, or no? Am I imagining
I think it's from a Marvel movie, you know.
Probably it is.
From Infinity
And
War.
he's like, "Hey, we don't."
T'Challa.
Yeah, he says,
Okay, yeah.
because what Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk, or what's his? Gosh, why am I blanking on that?
It's a War Machine. He he tricks.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He tricks Banner into like bowing before T'Challa. He's like, no, we don't do that.
Oh
here."
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
it's like, yeah, season 5, standalones, we don't do that here. But again, at the very beginning of the season, here we have it. It's a standalone. What's going on?
Do they just not know where else to put it?
It did feel a little bit
it's
like
really
that.
like it's a continuation of the end of season 4 arc when Maul comes back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It almost makes me wish in a
very
weird way we had done Brothers, Revenge, and Revival as 3, even though they're from different seasons. Because that makes a little bit more sense. It's just such a... It's just such a... I was trying to think why this episode existed, and my conclusion that I drew from what I could figure out was the idea that sure, we got Maul in Revenge, we saw how much of a threat he was in Revenge, and we got him at the very end of Phantom Menace, but the Clone Wars writers wanted to delve a little bit deeper into exactly how much of a threat this guy was. You did not have enough of a basis to fear him yet, basically. They knew he was going to be making some power plays in the Mandalore arc, and so they thought, yeah, we need to actually have him demonstrate his powers a little bit more before he goes crazy. Basically, before you knock it all down, and they did knock it all down with Sidious at the end, you have to build it up. You have to build it up a little bit.
Yeah.
right.
Well, and it also shows like how dedicated Maul is to just like destroying Obi-Wan in any possible way still. Like that's not over. Like it's for him it's just still beginning. And like they don't put like a ton of emphasis on it, but like enough where that's also it's an important piece because it later comes back in later episodes that we'll talk about. So
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
Does anyone have a jumping off point?
One of the things that I like at the very start of this episode is that scene where we get basically the master-apprentice relationship established between Maul and Savage.
Yeah.
Where like
That was
Savage,
good.
where Savage is talking about like, well, you know, we could be brothers, we can be equals, and then Maul is, you know, he's asserting the Sith line about like there's always a master and an apprentice, and then Savage challenges him, and then like Maul kind of puts him in his place. And what I like about this, like both that scene and their dynamic ultimately, is like I think it illustrates something important about Savage's role in the story. Because like one of the knocks that you can make about his character and about his inclusion in the Clone Wars is like, oh, it's just Maul again. Like they're just doing Darth Maul the same, right? Like you got the same species, double-bladed red lightsaber, all of that. But I think in some ways that's kind of the point, because like it's like Savage is there in part to kind of illustrate that the kind of moral of Maul basically throughout the Clone Wars, and then even when we get into Rebels, which is that like Maul can't break out of the cycle. That like he was part of the Sith, and even though he gets rejected and is kind of on his own, he can't help but just keep perpetuating what he was taught. And so like you get with the Maul Savage relationship, like he's treating Savage the way Sidious treated him, which is just as this blunt instrument
100%.
as this apprentice.
Yeah.
And so like it's part of that, like, you know, there's that adage about, or like the conventional wisdom about like how like a lot of people who are abusers like have a history of abuse in their past, like they themselves were abused. And so you sort of see that with Maul, like he was treated in a certain way by Sidious, like used as this kind of means to an end, and then Maul just continues that with Savage. And so I think he works in the story in that way. And then like, again, that's something that continues with Maul, and you see it all the way up through, you know, when we get to in Rebels with Twin Suns, that like he's just stuck in this mentality, in this worldview, and he cannot or does not want to break out of it.
I want to latch on.
I think that's a really. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I want to latch on to one thing Davor said there, which I think is very important, and I use this a lot. If anybody who is listening to this has not listened to the rant by Freddie Prinze Jr. about Star Wars in general, go do that. I think you'll like it. It's crazy. He goes absolutely insane. But one of my favorite things is it's the most indignant, and maybe Davor, because I know you're into this kind of stuff, you can back me up or disagree with me on this one. It's the most indignant I've ever seen somebody get about Greek mythology.
Oh my god.
And there's this line that plays in my head on repeat. Learn your Greek mythology. Maul is Sisyphus. Yep. Just the way he says it is just like so incredibly timeless. But he goes, Maul is Sisyphus. He rolls the ball up the hill. He rolls the boulder up the hill, and then it comes crashing back down on him. And I've been thinking about Maul a lot in that way. That he always, and The Lawless is one of those episodes where he gets so close. Revival is too, where he gets so close, but due to some mistake he makes along the way, it just all collapses on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I can loop back around to what you were just talking about, Davor, I think one thing that's interesting about this arc, especially with the Master and Apprentice scene, and really throughout all these episodes, is that Maul really, we see him kind of really relish being able to have the Master role and kind of being the one in power, because for so long he was denied that. But then, as you said, instead of trying to make a change, even though he's talking about how Palpatine abandoned him and he was left humiliated to fend for himself, he still ends up, as you said, perpetuating the cycle because the power that he has is so seductive. And I think that's kind of emblematic of how the Sith work. Of, you know, they always have the situation where, you know, the apprentice, for the Sith to work, the apprentice has to want what the Master has badly enough that then they forget about how much it sucked to be the apprentice when it's their turn to be the Master and when it's their turn to have that power. He really goes into this. I think Maul does. You know, how many times in these episodes does he say something like, "I must correct your oversight," or "Ooh, you are learning," or he's always talking about Viszla and Savage's oversights in this.
Yeah,
he really can't let go of. He has to be the smartest person in the room.
There's this sense, to quote a line from a scene involving who I know is another of Meg's favorite characters. There is a very I'm in charge, Phasma. I'm in charge vibes. This entire arc with Maul.
Yes.
It's this. Yeah, and there's also a line that I was like, you ever get I want to know if this happens to anybody else. I get random lines in my head, and I'm like, I know this is from a Star Wars villain. I don't know who this is from, and then I have to look it up. So this is a Cad Bane line. I realized. I'm in charge. I make the rules now. From Hostage Crisis. But it's this idea of you know, you've been holding me down long enough. It's time for me to just control everything, and that's what he does. Until, of course, he doesn't. That is the moral of this arc. It's Maul cleans house until he doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah. There's also a line. I'm sure all three of you know the. It was at this moment that he knew he messed up. Brother, let us share our strength. There's no need for dominance between us. It was at this moment that he knew. He messed up.
Yeah. It's really... I think it kind of shows, in some ways, maybe a little bit of naivete from Savage, that he's, focused on the material. He's focused on the material wealth. But Maul knows that, being a Sith, or at least being a dark sider, I guess, for him at that point, it's all about revenge.
Yeah.
And I think that goes without saying, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think also man, I just lost it. Yeah, like, how would Savage have known? He got, like, what was at maximum a few days training with Dooku. That could not have been more than, like, a few days at the most. Before he goes
got shafted.
What? Yeah. Yeah. Though then again, he was never really meant to be Dooku's apprentice anyway. Though I will say, actually, this is something we should have talked about in those episodes. Like, Savage trains, like, not even close to long enough for him to be an actual threat. Like, they go after him after, like, 3 days. Like, come on, wait a few months or something like that.
No, poor Savage.
Poor Savage, man. I hate his character, but poor Savage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I don't like him, but, like, I still kind of feel bad.
He definitely he just gets pushed around a lot and manipulated.
Yeah.
So it is really sad to see, especially with the way that his part of the story in the Clone Wars draws to a close in these episodes. It is, he definitely did not have an easy go. But Davor, I know you mentioned wanting to talk about the crime lords line. What did you?
I was actually, so Jacob, nice job deja vuing, not deja vu, mind syncing with me, because I was literally just gonna say, let's talk about unintentionally funny lines in this episode, because there are, like, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, so, like, that's one of those lines that stands out to me. So it's in that scene when, like,
crime.
Like when Maul and Savage meet, like, the first of, like, Hondo's crew or whatever, and then they're asking, like, are you guys Jedi? And he says, like, no, like, what are you? Like, we are lords, crime lords. And I'm like, and watching them thinking, like, talk about resume inflation. Like, you're two guys, you have beans, you have nothing.
Yeah.
It feels like there does seem to, like, be a sense of, we are lords. Grant glances back at Savage. Crime lords. Like, he does have a sense of, like, are we really doing this? Are we really saying this?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
I think, you can't say he's definitely faking it. He's fake it till you make it. He's definitely fake it till you make it.
That is definitely what Maul is. Maul is fake it till you make it.
And to his credit, he manages
Can't be
to
a
somehow...
Sith, be a proxy Sith.
He manages to somehow talk, finesse, and kill his way into controlling a whole bunch of crime syndicates in a matter of days. So, I mean, say what you will.
I don't think it's even days. I think it's, like, hours.
He did it. Like, he set out what he did what he set out to do. You can't say that he didn't do that, at least.
I mean, if Maul is anything, he's, like, the most determined person possibly ever in Star Wars, because he just does not quit. He just goes all the way every single time. Yeah, it's like, okay, you've been defeated by a Jedi, but you somehow survive. Don't get me into the logic of that. But then you go into crime. But then the crime thing fails, so you try to take over a planet. But taking over the planet thing fails. Then you do crime again, but bigger. Then the crime thing fails again. Then you corrupt a young boy into trying to be your apprentice, and that fails. And then there's probably you all know the Despicable Me Gru meme where he's pointing at the whiteboard, and then you're killed by your arch nemesis, and then you're killed by your arch nemesis. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, I mean, for Maul at this point, it's just he kind of realizes that at this point he has the smarts and the power to pretty much do almost anything he wants to through sheer force of will. But I think that ultimately just becomes his downfall, because he flies too close to the sun, and then obviously Sidious just shuts it all down.
Yeah.
Without even really trying.
There is a sense that like Maul has everything he dreams in this episode, but and this arc, and then his dreams catch up to him. Like he has it all, but then the consequences of his actions come into view more plainly with the pirates, with the Mandalore situation, and he doesn't really have like. He's not as good as his master. Like, he's trying as hard as his master before, like Davor was saying about him trying to do everything like his master did for him. He tried the master manipulator thing, and he does it, like, decently. He just, like, isn't to his master's level, where his master has backup plans for backup plans if things fail, and then guess what? If those backup plans fail, he has more backup plans, because this dude never runs out of backup plans.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just thinking, like, all those times that we see Palpatine just sitting in his desk and we assume he's working on, like, political stuff. Imagine if he's just looking, okay, backup plan 2B, backup plan 679A. He's just constantly typing about backup plans for if his plans don't work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Maul is, he's a wild one. Or Sidious, I mean, wow.
Yeah. They're both wild. They're wild. They're both wild.
Yeah, that works for both of them. They're
yeah.
And they definitely have in their own ways, they are both completely off the chain.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, I think we have to talk about Florum at a certain point.
Yeah,
and
I do want to mention one more unintentionally funny line.
Okay.
Do you want to live? Yes, very badly. Should not be as funny as it is. And it's something I only noticed on this rewatching of it. I'm like, that is hilarious. I don't know why that's so funny, but it just is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you guys think he chooses to go to Florum of all the places? Because I don't know, maybe he doesn't know enough about Hondo, but obviously Hondo's got not a lot of love for anyone with a lightsaber.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless, I don't know, there's just an assumption that because of who they are as pirates, that they might be more easily turned over to his side, that they might have fewer allegiances, fewer morals. I don't know why else.
I don't know if you know this.
That definitely becomes the
case.
Case.
There's a core in the middle of Florum that's actually a magnet. It's a plot magnet. It pulls all the plot to it. It does seem like, when in doubt, go to Florum.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
you need secret weapons delivered? Florum. You need somewhere to stage a rebellion? Florum. You need somewhere to be stranded on after your Padawan mission goes awry? Florum.
Pretty much.
I would say for the in-universe answer, though, I would say probably... This is a just wildly off-base answer, but that probably isn't right. But we see in the Darth Maul comics that Maul pre-Phantom Menace has a lot of affiliations with the underworld already, so he might know Hondo by reputation. Because I don't think he's met Hondo before this.
No. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like he knows him.
Yeah.
Like, based on their exchange and then his later exchange with Obi-Wan. But like, he does not know who Maul is.
Yeah. So, but my just weird idea is that maybe he knows from the research he's done about the crime and underworld of the galaxy that Hondo is a pretty powerful force in the underworld.
He is?
I mean, I don't know. He defeats 2 Jedi and a Sith, 2 of the most powerful, 3 of the most powerful Force beings in the galaxy.
Okay, that's fair.
What?
That is fair.
Wait, what's happened? I'm now the one praising Hondo, and Jacob is now the one dismissing Hondo.
I'm not dismissing Hondo.
Oh my god, this is like the other day when we were recording, where I was like, "Oh, the Jedi are losing their way," and I'm like, "I've become Jacob. I've completely turned."
Look, I mean, Meg, Davor, how do you two feel about Hondo? Because I feel like Eli and I end up just spending a lot of time talking about Hondo, and I feel like we've kind of, I don't know, he just lives rent free in my head at this point. So I have to hear some outside perspectives. How do you guys feel about this man?
I'm sorry, but I love him.
So do I.
I love him as
I
well.
think he's a delight.
Every time he just shows up, it's just like, oh, Hondo's here. Great.
Yeah.
I think he's an absolute legend.
Yes.
It's just a joy whenever he pops up.
I
And he
might
always
go
pops
as
up at the perfect moments too. Like
Yeah.
you don't see it coming. Here he is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I might say that I think maybe this episode is my favorite episode featuring Hondo in it of maybe Star Wars television.
This
Wow.
this is some of my favorite lines, including quite possibly my favorite Hondo line that he has ever uttered. Is uttered in this sentence. Is
So
uttered in
normally-
this episode.
There'd be a standout, but like there are 6 Hondo lines in this episode that
Yeah.
I'm like, these are top tier lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say this first of all. About Hondo, Maul says Hondo will not survive this unless he pledges himself, and I say to myself, Maul, you should really watch seasons 1 through 4 of the Clone Wars. Hondo survives literally everything.
Yeah.
Actually, you could take a lesson from him because
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The leader of the Separatists.
I was editing footage of that, like, and he reaches for the belt, and he's like, "Oh, not there." Takes his lightsaber off of a Sith Lord.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. And he literally says later in the episode, "And Hondo Ohnaka survives every time." And I'm like, "Yes, you do. I don't know how you do it, but you do." Yeah. Davor,
kind of a
without
magician.
revealing the line,
Mm-hmm.
is your favorite line of Hondo's his response to learning that some of the members of his gang had left him?
It is not. That is a
Okay.
favorite Hondo line of mine, but it is not my favorite Hondo line ever.
It's not my favorite line ever, and I'm really hoping it's that both of ours are the same, because there's one that's just stays in my head rent free way too much. But I do have to bring it up. Traitors, scum! I'm so pleased, but so betrayed.
Good. It's such a Hondo line.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I like about Hondo, is that even though he's like totally just a pirate and he, just trafficking spice, whatever he's doing, just stealing random stuff, betrayal, like he understands that that's what he's in it for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's like strangely understanding when like half his crew just decides to abandon him for someone that he's never even met before.
But then again,
you gotta love that.
But then again, he's like, a group of those Horde crazies show up and they run off with my men. My men.
That's true. Like,
So
maybe
he's
it
at the same time
steps
completely
in
not
after a
understanding
little while.
and understanding at the same time.
There's so many hilarious lines in these episodes. It's insane.
Yeah. Oh, to steal another one of Jacob's points, and then I'll pass it over to you two to share your thoughts about any parts of this being a part of the forum. The Jedi really need better PR. Because, like, nobody in this episode knows what Maul and Savage are. And, like, that's
like, oh, they're
kind of
Jedi.
troubling. Like, what are the Jedi doing?
Who knows? No one knows.
No one like, and like like I want to know. We're getting to this arc pretty soon. Ahsoka's trial, was that publicized at all? Like, how was that seen? They're so bad at PR that like the senators immediately go from thinking of them as the saviors of the Republic to then Palpatine says, "Oh yeah, they're all traitors," and they're like, "Yeah, that's true."
Yeah. It's like, I mean, there's a whole question in the prequels, and maybe by extension you could say earlier, about like what exactly the Jedi are institutionally in the Republic. Like, it obviously, like, particularly in the prequel era, it just gets very muddied, and you're like, do they have a formal role in government? Are they just like some sort of outside advisory? It's very muddled. They seem to be many different things at many different times.
They can just pick and choose at this point what they want to be at any given moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the Jedi is that they're so, and we kind of see that in this, where someone like Hondo, he really doesn't care about the difference between the Jedi or the Sith. He's just like, I've dealt with your, like, he just steps up to Maul and he's like, I've dealt with your kind before, and I'll deal with you again. I don't care who you are, which I think kind of, admittedly, that is a very badass confrontational way to do it, but that kind of embodies, I think, what it must be like for a lot of the galaxy, where they don't see a lot of Jedi. They're not on Coruscant. They've never seen the temple, and the Jedi to them are a pretty kind of mysterious force, and I think for a lot of the galaxy that doesn't know about the Jedi, they don't really care. They're just like,
Yeah.
Just stay out of our way. Don't mess things up. And of course, the Jedi. A lot of the time, they really, really cannot help messing with things.
Absolutely, they cannot. Any thoughts from either of you about the beginning of Forum on Revival?
The only thing I would have to mention here is another great Hondo line here, which is his retort to Maul about, "You are not the first laser sword wielding maniac I've had to deal with."
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what that is one thing that I love. I'm gonna not try and harp about Hondo too much, but one of the things that I really, really like about him is his willingness to go toe to toe with these crazy, powerful mystery wizards that are like running around constantly trying to ruin everything for him. I think it's it's cool. It's cool to see that, especially given the powers that are afforded to Force users in combat, that he can actually step up. Like, he had that whole thing with Anakin in season 1 where he was actually on the tank fighting with him, sparring with the lightsaber. He had the Electro staff. That's kind of what I love about Hondo.
Well, sometimes I think
Yeah,
like
season 2.
he's so far in it that he just like almost doesn't care. He's like, I'll do anything to get what I want, which is one of the reasons I love him so much. He's kind of reckless, can relate.
Yeah,
I think we
he's
can all
awesome
relate to Hondo. We can all remember our mother saying to us, "Son, if 1 hostage is good, 2 is better. 2 are better, and 3, well, that's just good business."
Yep.
Oh, Hondo! Like, I want to see some kind of spin-off about Hondo's childhood.
Hondo,
That
a
would
Star
be-
Wars story.
Just like Hondo and his mother going around having wacky adventures.
That'd
be hilarious.
Who cares about Lando? We don't need Lando at all. Just replace it with Hondo.
Yep.
I'm joking. I want Lando. I'm fine with Lando. I like Lando, but like, come on, you're right. It's right there. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, this is another thing that I find interesting about this episode and about this entire arc. 0 clone troopers, 0 battle droids. For a show called Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and we've mentioned this in previous episodes, of course, but it's fascinating how much time, especially this season, they spend away from the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think this is a very this is a very good example of one of the arcs where they kind of break out of the early season template of the Clone Wars, which is, clones versus droids, obviously, and they really do something quite a bit different, and I like that. I really like that.
Absolutely, I love that. Those are my favorite arcs where they go beyond that stuff. That's why Massacre is one of my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, Massacre.
Yeah, I really like it when they kind of break away from that, because it's like the Clone Wars is like one of my favorite like eras in Star Wars, and it shows like there's so much going on at this point in the galaxy that no one knows what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Which is why everything falls apart, and I love that.
Yeah, and I think it makes
close
the world
to, like, anarchy as it is to like as it is in the entire saga, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes the world a lot richer also, that they can kind of, at this point in the Clone Wars, go beyond, as you, Meg, and you, Eli, were saying, go beyond the clones, really see everything that's happening. Or at least more different things. That's something that I really like.
Do we want to get to the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul and Savage Opress and Obi-Wan and Adi Gallia?
Please.
Yeah.
Which
This duel is awesome.
really, because it does almost nothing for me.
Really?
Hot take?
I'm sorry.
take.
Explain yourself.
So this is in contrast. I don't know. For me, lightsaber duels are really good opportunities, and I know Meg agrees with me on this one because she talks about an episode that's basically riddled with lightsaber duels for this exact purpose all the time. Lightsaber duels are good opportunities for me to learn a little bit more psychologically about the characters. How they fight indicates how they act. And, one of the best examples of that is Trials of the Darksaber, where we get, like, Sabine's trauma, basically, in a series of lightsaber duels. But I struggle with this duel especially to see what exactly we learn about these characters psychologically. That's just my opinion. Also, by the way, there's another reason I don't like this duel, and it's because Adi Gallia dies. And it's not just that Adi Gallia dies, it's the way she dies.
You're not a fan of the headbutt?
I really didn't want Savage Opress to kill anybody significant. I did not want that to happen. I don't like his character, and I think that's why. But, like, this is Adi freaking Gallia here. She's a Jedi Master. She trained for years in the Jedi arts. She was on the Council. She was, I also happen to know that, at least this is true in Legends, I'm not sure in canon, that she had contacts with the Chancellor. She is an established Jedi Master, and she got taken down by some guy who got enhanced with Night Sister magic. Cool story, bro.
I think this kind of, I don't mind it because I think it just kind of serves to reinforce how much of a menace Savage Opress really is. And I think that if it wasn't for moments where he actually makes a real dent in the Jedi, I think if it wasn't for moments like that, he would just kind of be like this very kind of unfulfilling Maul 2.0.
Yes, please give that to me.
Or as you said previously.
Don't have him do anything significant, please. Just have him be useless, because he is useless.
What? No, man.
God.
Okay, well...
And here we go!
We thought I was going to be the one catching flack this episode. But turns out
y'all were
Eli's
wrong!
Seat. Yeah. So what did you guys think about this this duel?
I thought it was cool. I mean, honestly, it looked really cool to me. I like seeing Obi-Wan just like go up against like something that you think he couldn't survive, and he does. I just like Obi-Wan dueling in general because every single time it just gets me. But like, we were just talking about, why this death was so significant, and like just look at the way he reacts when it happens. Like that just so it shows you like how like being a Jedi, how much he genuinely cares about the other Jedi.
Yeah.
And that really stood out to me for some reason. I never really like caught that the first time, a couple times I watched it, but yeah.
Yeah, I really, I agree with you. In fact, I noticed watching it that Obi-Wan actually goes for the kill on Savage. Like when he knocks him down, he has a big overhand blow, and it's only because Maul blocks it that Savage lives. And I thought that was very out of character, and I thought it showed the intensity with which he fought.
I think Obi-Wan knows how much of a danger this guy is. Speaking of the danger this guy is, and maybe also the lack thereof, there's a move that he uses twice, Savage, in these 4 episodes. Once when he kills Adi Gallia, and once when he fights Sidious in the Lawless that I don't understand. I want people to explain it to me because I don't understand the logic of this move. By the way, I don't think it has logic, it's just such a weird move. The thing where he sticks his lightsaber in the ground and then activates the other blade up. It's like if you're striking down with your normal lightsaber, except for it's a double-bladed lightsaber. And then Sidious does that thing where he strikes the blade up above. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. I think it's so weird, but that's just me.
I think it's cool. I know you're not gonna like it because it's Maul, but personally,
it's Savage actually, but whatever.
Or it's in that it's close enough to Maul.
It's in the family.
It's in that vicinity. It's associated, and I heard what you said about Savage, man. Come on.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. By the way, I just realized something. When Mother Talzin was naming her children, did she give up at Savage? Maul, Faral, Savage.
Yeah.
You wanted them all to rhime?
It does seem a little weird that 2 of them rhyme and 1 of them doesn't.
Yeah, I might feel a little shortchanged if that was me. Not gonna lie.
Then again, 1 of them's dead.
Yeah, gosh, I feel so bad for Faral. Like that.
Yeah. You guys remember Faral? Remember that happened? Remember he killed him in cold blood?
Yes, I do remember that.
Oh my gosh, Faral.
R.I.P. to a real one.
It was genuinely sad, and I thought it was genuinely sad, seeing Savage Opress go from he definitely lives in a violent, very warrior-centric society, but he clearly has a lot of love for his brother, and then he gets turned into a monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, R.I.P. to a real one, honestly.
Turned into a what, Jacob? Turned into a what?
A monster. Yes, no pun intended.
Roll credits. What I am crazy about is Hondo's response to Adi Gallia's death. Where's the other Jedi? She's dead. I am semi-speechless.
Oh, Hondo is a menace in this one. He is acting out a little bit.
I have to watch this episode again because I missed all of these lines somehow.
We just choose random weird things to focus on.
This episode's straight up the Emperor's New Groove, where the jokes just come at you and you're still trying to catch up on the second joke by the time the 5th joke. To quote that movie, oh yeah, it's all coming together now.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. The duel, amazing. I thought I loved. And I think just seeing Obi-Wan, Meg, as you said, go up against those tough odds and still come out mostly on top. I think Obi-Wan in the movies kind of gets a little shortchanged in terms of the duels. He always kind of gets sidelined because the duels are big moments for Anakin usually.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was very, very cool to see. But I think we have to talk about that last scene with Palpatine.
Oh no, we gotta talk about so much more before then.
That was
Yeah.
Really. What did I miss?
We gotta talk about what I believe is both Davor and my favorite line from Hondo in this episode. I love this line. Can you be Maul and I'll be Hondo?
You will pay for your insolence.
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means! Open fire!
My all-time favorite Hondo line. It's so good.
Yeah.
It lives rent free in my head for so long. It's so hilarious. I remember like going into the episode. I'm like, oh, this is the we're pirates. We don't even know what that means episode.
I had a moment too when I was rewatching. I'm like, that's this episode.
It's the Leo pointing at the screen. It's from.
Yep. This that.
He said the thing.
He said the thing.
It's such a hilarious line, and probably maybe not only my favorite Hondo line, but like probably the Hondo line I feel like most accurately describes his character.
Yeah. The other thing to mention, though, just to go back a little bit back to the duel itself, is we should note, I think it is worth noting, that in this duel, that Obi-Wan earns yet another arm-chopping merit badge.
He does.
Oh, yeah.
Chops
That is
Savage's
true.
arm off.
Where's
Boom.
this side?
Yeah.
Another arm.
How many arms?
We're just gonna
So he takes
A fine addition to my
Anakin.
collection.
No,
Like,
he doesn't take
He's got
Anakin's.
Anakin
Oh yeah, he
Vader's
does.
arm. He's got
Ponda
he's got Ponda's arm, and he's
got all
Grievous's
four of Grievous.
arm. And now he's got and he has
Savage's
Savage.
mhm.
Are we missing any? I'm trying to think. It's
I mean, he doesn't kill Maul by cutting off any of his arms, so
Nope.
I mean arms, legs. Like he gets the legs at least.
yeah. He gets the legs of Anakin too. He gets both legs.
Mhm.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, Anakin is without a leg to stand on after that one.
No, he did not.
Oh,
my
actually,
gosh.
that is a joke actually about Maul. I know Davor has seen Terrifying Tales. Meg, have you seen Terrifying Tales?
I have.
Okay, finally people have seen Terrifying Tales. Jacob, you gotta watch Terrifying Tales. It's so good.
It really is. It's a delight.
It's great. Yeah, that Wookiee's Paw episode that Wookiee's Paw story is really strange, but I love it so much. Plus, Christian Slater as Ren.
Yeah, it's
You're
pretty
welcome, Earth. I'd also like to briefly bring up the great Kelly Knox, who is a Star Wars journalist on Twitter. And I'd just like to say that those shots to Maul's mechanical legs at the end of the episode really split him. I bet he's really cut up about that. I imagine that he feels like a bottomless pit.
Oh.
That's too much.
Kelly, at me. DM
That
me.
is just ruthless. That is ruthless. Come on. Oh my gosh.
I'm joking. Anyway, yeah. Anything else with the Palpatine before the Palpatine Sidious conversation that Jacob wanted to talk about at the end?
No, not for me.
No.
Yeah.
Jacob, you
Let's
wanted to
talk
get to
about
that.
I'm definitely a big fan of these scenes in the Clone Wars where we can really see Palpatine's manipulation on full display, you know, all the time when he's... I can't think of a specific example right now, but so many scenes where he's just completely pulling one over on the Jedi Council, or it's so clear from the viewer's perspective how he's completely like manipulating Anakin and making, kind of sending the message of, oh, I'm the only person you can trust, Anakin. I'm the only person who sees you for what you are, things like that. So I think it's really interesting how he actually convinces everyone that like it would be selfish of Obi-Wan to be worried about Maul coming back. He's like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's a personal matter. And then the fact that the kicker for me, now I may be going back down the Fall of the Jedi rabbit hole, but the kicker for me is how
Oh no.
this really shows, this is such a complacent moment from the Jedi. It just made me go, "Ah, why are you doing this?" You know, like what did Yoda say? He says, "When Maul reveal himself, Maul will eventually, and then swiftly we will act." That's not good enough. Like
Also, by the way, spoiler,
look where that's gonna get
didn't.
you with the Sith at large. Yeah, look where that's gonna get you with the Sith at large. So I thought that was an interesting. It's just one of these little installments in the never-ending tale in the Clone Wars of Palpatine just manipulating everybody and completely getting away with it.
Yep. I would just like to add to Maul to all about that. You know, Maul killed Qui-Gon Jinn. You don't just kill Qui-Gon Jinn. Yoda remembers. Mace remembers. Anakin remembers. I would even go as far to say Pepper Ridge Farms remembers. I wrote that on my notes. So I'm like, I gotta say that one. Everybody remembers that he killed a Jedi, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. You know.
Yeah, they're surprisingly glib about.
Yeah.
Yeah, about this like literally you have found out a guy you thought was dead is back, and they're just like, just leave him, like no biggie, like it's fine.
Is a petty crook, is what Palpatine says, I think.
This scene also to me has an unintentionally funny line, which is Obi-Wan telling Palpatine, "The Sith are persistent; they will not die."
Yes.
Yeah, that was
just
too
thinking.
Good.
I just wrote down in my notes, speaking of that, Obi-Wan, I got a bridge to sell you about Darth Plagueis the Wide. You heard of him? Yeah, I didn't think so. It was not a story the Jedi would tell you.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
the Sith are persistent, they will not die. Flashes to the Rise of Skywalker. The dead speak.
I was like, it's just made me think of like, hey Yoda, if you think that you don't need to do anything about Maul, I've got the son of an Onderonian prince who needs to use your bank account to move credits out of Onderon. So just give me your bank number, Yoda. Come on. Like it's kind of incredible, and I know I tend to go on about the Jedi losing their way and whatnot, but come on, this feels egregious. Like this feels like a lot. In Eminence, Maul, Savage, they're freezing to death. They're drifting in an escape pod through space. None other than the Death Watch comes, picks them up, pieces them back together, and Maul and... God, how do I blank on names? It's bad. Maul and Pre Viszla, they make a deal. They wanna take over. They want to take over Mandalore. Maul's like, I can help you do that. Pre Viszla's like, okay, I can help you. Yada yada. Of course, both of them obviously think that they're gonna double cross the other and then just have their way. But they just go around. They talk to some Pikes. They talk to some Black Sun people. They talk to some Hutts, and yeah, that's kind of just it. The episode ends with gosh, bear with me here as I blank on the name again. The episode ends with Pre Viszla. No, the episode ends with Pre Viszla telling Bo-Katan, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna stab these guys in the back and kill them anyway. It doesn't matter."
Yeah.
So that's pretty much this episode. They're going around. They're building up their forces. They're wheeling and dealing.
They're wheeling and they're dealing.
Doing a lot of killing as well.
Yeah.
So, the fortune
cookie is one vision can have many interpretations.
One vision can have many interpretations.
I do feel like this one's about, it's not about, literally the Force vision, though, ironically, Maul on Mandalore in a different arc actually does have a Force vision, or at least that's what he tells us. But it's about their visions for the galaxy, Maul has this vision for crime ruling the galaxy, and so does Pre Viszla, a little differently. And so do the Pikes, a little differently. And so do the Hutts. Not at all, but they have a lightsaber to their throat, so a little differently.
this is a nice way of saying that they all pretty much just want to use each other and then just, leave the other person, the other group, leave them out to dry, stab them in the back, whatever it is, the moment that it's expedient to do so.
Absolutely.
That was kind of how I felt about it.
There is that sense that, and we'll talk about this with the fortune cookie for the next episode, but there is that sense that dark side alliances just never work because they're not uniting around a common goal, they're reuniting around a common enemy, and once the enemy is defeated, it just kind of falls apart.
In this case, even before the enemy is really defeated, as it will come to pass.
By the way, if nobody else has anything, I think we should just rip off the Band-Aid, honestly.
What you mean by that?
What?
A certain purple armored Band-Aid. That I'm sure we'll get a lot of talking about. So Death Watch finds Maul and Savage. Not just Death Watch. Which member of Death Watch, specifically? That's right, I'm talking about Bo-Katan Kryze.
Eli, I feel like you're just baiting me to say something right now.
I'm not gonna lie a little bit.
I feel like you're trying to get a disagreement going, but I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't say I'm trying to get a disagreement going. I just feel like we're gonna get to both sometime. Why don't we just do it now?
I mean, she's there in this part.
Oh God, no!
Well, Jacob, you done it.
She has a bigger role later on.
Watch this.
You're just gonna
I was joking. I was joking to. I think I was just thinking to myself before this. I'm like, I can see my notes. I'm like, I can see all of our notes. It's gonna be like, me. Oh my God, Bo-Katan's so awesome in this. Jacob, more Bo-Katan. Meg, oh my God, my queen, I love her so much. Davor, I'm just gonna avoid the firestorm.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
yeah, Megan, I will totally let you go off. I'm just gonna say, this episode, and specifically, actually, Shades of Reason sold me on Bo-Katan as a character. They sold me on her arc, especially Shades of Reason. They sold me on her purpose and her determination and all of her characteristics. It sold me. I'm good.
Good. Okay. No, I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
I'm taking deep breaths now. I mean, for the first part of this episode, if you want me to say something controversial, I don't really know what I can give you here, because
I'm not baiting you as much as you think I am. I'm really not.
Are you sure? Are you really sure about that?
I think you're overblowing this by quite a bit.
Me?
What is happening?
I will just say like we get there when Bo-Katan pops up in the story. If we want to discuss Bo-Katan.
I mean, I really think it's here that you start to realize or understand that, like, very few people involved in what's to become of this conflict actually care about Mandalore, except for possibly Bo-Katan. And, you know, that becomes more apparent later as her arc goes on. But, like, Maul doesn't care. Viszla doesn't care. No one has any interest in Mandalore itself. All they care about is power. And Bo-Katan, admittedly, is sitting back in this episode more because they don't have a lot to do with her yet, which is fine. But because she's part of Death Watch, but does she necessarily agree with everything? No, and we see that later. She walks out because she realizes, this is. I was really just going to say this is not the way. I didn't mean that. Didn't mean it, but it came out anyway. And that's the thing about her growth is that she is in the background in these early episodes, and there's just such a shift in that later. I just love her.
Yeah. What would you say? What would distinguish her from pre-Viszla? Because they both, at this point at least, they both seem like they're kind of true believers in, the Death Watch cause, wanting to go back to the warrior society that we understand Mandalore once was. Very interested in the former glory. How would you say that Bo-Katan and pre-Viszla kind of differentiate themselves, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
that's something that I don't really see.
Yeah, I mean, they're both on the same wavelength in that regard, and she's there for a while. I think the difference, at least that I see or that I interpret, is that he is in it specifically for being the one that holds the power, and she's kind of in it for, these are the ideals that I care about. I don't care how we get back to them. I just want them to be this way. I want back to their traditions. I want Mandalore to be what Mandalore is supposed to be. That's where her head is at. He's more of like, I just want to be in charge. And she'll get to a point where she is, but that's not necessarily what her plan was. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that.
I think I might have a little hot take for everybody here, but I'm gonna deliver it right here. Meg, you're gonna agree with this one, actually. I think. I'm 99% sure. I think that of all of the characters, like, we have a stellar voice acting cast put together here. We have Favreau as Viszla. We have Clancy Brown as Savage Opress. Whitworth as Maul. I think Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan is the best voice acted role in this arc, pretty much.
You're right.
Yeah. I think, because if you think about this, I think about this too. I view this arc, weirdly enough, as her audition tape for The Mandalorian. That's what it is.
That's an interesting...
What did they have to look at for her performance? I mean, a friend in need, sure, but like, she didn't, I don't think even had a name back then. It was this arc that basically got her into The Mandalorian before any other character from animation, including Ahsoka, in, like, at least in sequential order of when The Mandalorian happens, gets into that series. Which I think is...
That's definitely an interesting take.
I like it.
Yeah.
I approve. You're on my good side. Still. Don't ruin it.
So here's the thing. Ochi is better. I'm joking.
No, I'm done. It was nice talking to you guys. I'm out.
Shadow of the Sith can't come soon enough.
When Eli brings up Ochi, I genuinely don't know what to say at this point.
Just smile and wave.
Yeah. I honestly just like, that's cool. I am not in that deep because I have not been following the Ochi story and like picking up the pieces to put together whatever Eli has got figured out at this point.
He's a magical character, okay?
A magical character, all right.
I mean, look, you don't need any more Shakespearean writing than I'm Ochi of Bestoon, kick store down. Don't need anything else.
Is that in the Vader comic?
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, this is weird. Does anyone else find it weird that Pre-Viszla drinks tea? This is the leader of Death Watch, and he's played by Jon Favreau of all people, and he drinks tea.
I think it kind of makes sense to me. They I don't know. It just makes sense somehow that they're all about tradition and they're drinking tea, and that feels somehow very prim and proper. I don't know.
I find it more weird that Maul just takes the cup and drinks it. Like, you just met these people and they're clearly warriors. Like, you cross your mind like maybe they put something in it, like
Yeah, like how
Well, then
how
again,
is that
I
not just gonna
would
make your
think-
stomach explode? You know?
I would
Yeah.
think he would use the Force to detect, like, if they're lying or not. But again, that's just extrapolation. By the way, another thing about that scene: why is like the line "drink, it's good for your health" in like 17 Clone Wars episodes? Like, think about that. That line is in more episodes than you think it is.
really.
It sneaks in there. It's like the one that goes to my head is when Dooku arrives on Dathomir and Talzin gives him a drink, and she's like, "Yeah, drink that," and he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." You gotta lock my hair, which I'm sure you will do nothing bad with, but yeah, I'll drink this.
I think it just shows that Maul is you know, as we said, he will do whatever it takes to get power, and if that includes drinking some sketchy tea, he is probably all for that.
But wait, maybe the tea had what is it called? Shoot, the what did they put in the tea in the other Mandalore arc? You know what I'm talking about? The one that poisons all the kids.
Oh, Slaven? Something like
Yeah.
that?
Slaven! Oh my god, that's a pull
Where did I-
right there.
What corner of my brain did I pull that out of?
Where did that come from?
I have no.
That is impressive.
I have so many questions.
That is crazy. This arc are two of the other instances where things got censored on Cartoon Network.
What?
Oh,
There's-
the decapitation.
Oh.
Both of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Savage chucks his lightsaber at like 6 Black Sun guards, Black Sun members, senior members, and their heads all just fall off. Why they don't just like move to the side when they see he's doing that, who knows? But and then when Maul decapitates Pre Viszla, we can see there's a shot in the peripheral where you can see his head rolling down the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
And
really?
both of them were censored on Cartoon Network, and the scenes were removed, but then added back on to the DVDs, and then eventually Disney Plus when it was released onto Disney Plus. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. It's this arc that has like a few of. I think it's like this arc, and there's one more and something else. I think somebody cuts off somebody else's head, and
Is that
then
the Ahsoka move where she decapitates like the 6 Mandalorians at once?
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's that. No.
Oh, okay.
Are you talking about which other scene was censored?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
thought it was maybe that one.
I think it was maybe the scene where I think in one of the Camino episodes, Asajj kills a clone.
Yeah,
and,
that's-
Oh yeah,
takes off
that's
his
it.
helmet
You're right.
and- Imagine like impaling someone and then like planting one on him as this, like that is depraved. That is.
By the way,
like,
the reason Jacob knows this, and I was counting on him to know this, is because you did like a StarWars.com episode guide on that, and you mentioned that. And I'm like, oh, I knew Jacob mentioned another one in the past episodes of In a Galaxy. I don't know which one it is. I'm like, yeah, it's that one. It's the heads, and then it's the kiss in This Is Going to Annoy Me Until I Figure It Out. Clone Cadets... ARC Troopers!
yeah.
Full
That's it.
disclosure, I looked it up, but ARC Troopers. Yeah, ARC Troopers. Yeah. Let's see. So, yeah. Do we want to go to Nalhuda?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I think.
So they get the Pikes on their side, they get the Black Sun on their side, and then they go to the Hutts, who are a little less cooperative. Namely, they bring like every bounty hunter in the galaxy who isn't Boba Fett or Bossk at this time, and it's just like, okay, have at it. Yeah. Anything for the two of you? We'll start off with the two of you. Have anything to add for this one?
Yeah, that's one of the things I was wondering because, like, yeah, they show up to where the hut meeting is, and then like the bounty hunters like spring up from behind the table, and I'm like, are the bounty hunters just like standing there, like waiting for something to happen? Like, what's going on?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised given that the huts, I can imagine them maybe being a little bit paranoid.
Right.
So I could definitely see that happening. Just paying them to sit there for days on end just in case something like that ever happens.
Also, by the way, while we're on Nal Hutta, we gotta talk about maybe one of my favorite meme lines of this arc specifically, not including Revival. Where is Jabba? Tatooine! Palace! So the only thing you can tell me is that I will find Jabba at Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Aruba the Hutt, man. Aruba the Hutt is a god, man. Like, he
did his best. He was really trying.
He did the best with the information he was given. You can't fault the guy.
Yeah.
If you were face to face with Maul, you would say the same thing.
Yep. You have to say it again? R.I.P. to a real one.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to a real one. I'm just now imagining, like, by the way, thank you both, by the way, you have now successfully, Jacob, unless you object, Star Wars In a Galaxy, episode 66, R.I.P. to a real one.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of real ones who go down in this episode. Or in this arc,
I'm doing it.
We haven't even
Can't
gotten to
stop me.
Savage, and
I
we
edit
haven't
this.
even gotten. We haven't even.
Yeah.
You brought this upon yourself, Davor.
I did. I really did. As I so often do.
Yeah, can't stop me. I will also just add another thing about this episode that I think is fascinating. Darth Maul is fighting Dengar. Savage Opress is fighting Embo. Is this like a weird, like, what if scenario? Like, whoever would have thought that, like, we'd be 5 seasons into a show about droids fighting with clones, and Darth Maul would be fighting Dengar. Like, did that strike anybody else as really strange?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
Anything else anybody has for Eminence before we go on to the Shades of Reason?
I did have a moment as I was watching, like, when they do mention about going to Jabba's palace, like, I had a flashback to, I don't know whose line it was. I think maybe it was Jacob's about, like, why does everyone want to go back to Tatooine? I just thought of them. They're going back to Tatooine.
Yeah. That it was one of us. I do remember we were both ranting at a certain point about, like, why do every time they have to go to a desert planet, they go to Tatooine? Or apparently Florum, now we've discovered.
Yes.
No, it's really strange, honestly. At this point, it was just like, yeah, they're going back to Tatooine. I'm just accepting at this point. There's nothing I could do about it. They're gonna go back to Tatooine no matter... They're, even... We're in Visions now, and we get an episode literally called Tatooine Rhapsody. I'm like, I give up. You're gonna bring us to Tatooine any chance you get.
The thing about Tatooine is that you're always going to, like, the same, like, 3 places on Tatooine. Like, if we're gonna keep going back to Tatooine, can we go to, like, somewhere on Tatooine you've never been?
This is why I like the Marshal.
It's a whole planet.
This is why I like the Marshal, because it actually takes us to places that we've never been. It actually takes us to places that we've only been in non-canon video games. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say never been, but then I realized, oh yeah, we're there in KOTOR. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like, why is everybody getting so excited about this KOTOR remaster? We already got a KOTOR remaster. It's called The Marshal. Yeah. Anything else from anybody about Eminence, or should we go on to Shades of Reason?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, in Shades of Reason, the plot moves to Mandalore. Death Watch and Darth Maul and Savage and their forces go to Mandalore, and they hatch their brilliant plan. Basically, the criminals will stage attacks on the civilians, and then the Death Watch will rescue them, making them saviors in the Mandalorian people's eyes. This plan works to shocking effectiveness, and then Viszla rallies the Mandalorian public to his side by saying, where has pacifism gotten you now? Satine and her government are weak and ineffective to stop this, and they successfully get the will of the Mandalorian people on their side. Satine and her government kind of just then let them take over. It's a little strange, but and then they put Satine in jail, and then finally Pre Viszla then turns on Maul, locking him and Savage up in jail. They break out and they're like, let's go on a little tour of the facility. Let's see who our new puppet's gonna be. And they decide Olmec is a good idea because Satine says he's one of the most corrupt and vile people you'll ever meet. And they're like, so just our kind of guy. And anybody else, that scene is so ironic for so many reasons. It's just this guy is so terrible, and Satine, you're talking to two of the most terrible people in the galaxy right now. That's what they're looking for. But anyway, so then Maul breaks out, and then he honor duels Viszla. Not for long though, because off goes Viszla's head, and off goes the head of the Death Watch. Now Maul's in control. Now Maul has the Darksaber. Bo-Katan and her forces rebel against that and say they're all traitors. Maul says, unfortunately for you, history is not going to see it that way, in one of the most famous memes from this arc. And then Olmec takes the stage and he's like, Satine, the person who's never fired a blaster at anybody to harm anybody in her life, she's the one who killed Pre Viszla. Totally. Makes total sense. Foolproof logic. And then that's how the episode ends, with them completely taking over Mandalore and just waiting for Obi-Wan to take the bait. Or, as I should call this episode, Shades of Unreason. Because everybody's just so incredibly dumb in this episode. It's Maul with his genius plan, and then it is literally everybody else.
Yeah.
And even Maul's plan only works until Sidious finds out.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it fails even before then, but I digress. Fortune Cookie is alliances can stall true intentions. As we were talking a little bit about for the last episode, I think I said this for another episode of In a Galaxy. There are more of us on the dark side.
Yeah.
There are more of us Poe does not work if it's on the dark side. It does not work. Because I'm thinking about the First Order and the Final Order in Rise of Skywalker, or the Separatists, the Separatist leaders, and then the Separatist Council in the Clone Wars, or the Empire and then the 6 bounty hunters in the original trilogy era. None of them end that well because none of them were about friendship. They were about common enemyship.
Yeah.
Anyone else or about that Fortune Cookie alliances can stall true intentions?
I mean, the entire Crimson Dawn is just one long stall for everyone involved. All the criminal groups are obviously thinking, this psycho Maul just came in and took us over. We just want to get out of here as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, Maul and Viszla, their goals no longer really aligning all that much at this point. Maul wants to build an empire. Viszla, he just wants to chill out on Mandalore once he's kind of consolidated power there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great fortune cookie that kind of fits with this episode and what's going on, because you even have that point where, and Jacob was alluding to it, where Maul was talking about like, oh, we can use Mandalore as a base to get like the other systems and get control of them, and Viszla's like, I don't care about the other systems, like I just want Mandalore, like forget it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they have this momentary alliance to take over Mandalore, but for Viszla, like that's the end of the road. For Maul, that's just a means to an end, and it's like it takes a while. Like they form this alliance, and it kind of takes a while for it to realize that like they have just two totally different goals in mind.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This episode is such a strange one for me, and it's an interesting one for me specifically because there are two sides to this episode. There's what the average Mandalorian citizen sees, and then there's what Maul sees. Because none of it's real.
Yeah.
This is all just a scheme to get the Mandalorian people to be, to not like Satine and to like Viszla. It's basically a very sped up version of what Palpatine does.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's the line that I was thinking about. George Lucas was describing his inspirations for the original trilogy, and he says, wait for it, I'm trying to find it. Democracies aren't overthrown, they're given away. Mm-hmm. Nobody just comes in and says, I'm taking over the government. The government is, in this case, and in also the case with the Senate in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine does 16 other things before he gets them to give away democracy. Emergency powers and the war and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't go for the kill straight yet.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I also like the pre-Viszla also taps into like a lot of tribalistic stuff, you know. We are better than them. We are Mandalore. And we're gonna let no one stop us.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely,
we are better than them.
I think that's obviously kind of the vibe that he wants to get back to from Mandalore. So I'm not entirely surprised. I mean, I'm completely unsurprised that he's kind of pushing that narrative, and I'm honestly surprised that he wouldn't also sign on to Maul's whole idea of expanding and being empire, given that, like, traditionally part of the Mandalorian warrior culture, as I understand it, was going out and conquering other planets and other systems. So that actually confuses me a little bit. Why all of a sudden, or it's not all of a sudden, but in this case, he's just not really having that.
As I was watching the beginning, I couldn't remember, because I knew I'd heard it on a Star Wars podcast. I couldn't remember what podcaster said it. I had a brief moment where I thought, like, maybe I heard it from you guys, but, like, the people of Mandalore do seem really gullible. Like, they do in that scene when they're, like, when, like, Satine is looking out of the crowd, and then, like, Pre-Viszla just, like, flies in and is like, this is because of Satine, like, we can say it, and then they're all just like, yeah, Death Watch. Like, they just seem, like, really easily persuadable.
Yeah, that definitely... I was definitely a little skeptical of that in this story. They're just like, oh, now it's this, it's that. Like when the Death Watch just flies in, then you hear all the crowd just say, like, they're saving us. We're saved. They're saviors.
Yeah.
They're going to save Mandalore. Mandalore has been saved by the saviors of the Death Watch. It's like, come on.
It seems ridiculous. Like. It seems ridiculous, and I think it is quite ridiculous. However, I would point out the litany of ridiculous things that people are believing these days, and then it seems a little less crazy.
That's a fair point.
I was also going to say, like, part of me wonders if it's just, like, they're at a point, you know, all the stuff is going on in the galaxy at this time. Will they just go for anything that's not the way that things have been for a while? Like, they hear, like, oh, someone else is going to take over, things are going to change. Like, maybe they just don't care what the change is. They just don't want it to be the way that it is anymore.
There is that thought I
would-
had.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jacob.
That's right. I would definitely say, Meg, to what you were saying. I think you're onto something because this definitely reminds me of, historically at least, whenever countries, societies are very vulnerable to strongmen leaders taking over. Whenever there's a lot of political upheaval and economic struggles, and I think that's what we're seeing here. Like, we know that Mandalore has been struggling. Obviously, the black market problems with Almec and the Slaven. So I think that they're definitely kind of desperate for someone who can make the promises to restore them to their former glory.
Yeah. What I was going to say, to Meg's point, and I agree with you, is there's that line when Maul talks to the pirates in Revival. I was getting tired of Hondo anyway. And there's part of me that kind of thinks that that's kind of floating like, yeah, we're kind of tired with Satine anyway. We don't like her much anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the idea that, I know this is an idea in Legends, that like a Jedi mind trick only can work better the more somebody wants to do what you already want them to do anyway. It's much harder to do a Jedi mind trick on somebody to convince something if they're not already wanting it themselves. Yeah, and I think that applies here. Yeah, there's a when Viszla takes over, there's this face that he makes when he's glaring down at the crowd and they're screaming his name out loud. I've seen that face before. That is the face of a man who is drunk with power.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's haunting, honestly. It's crazy. Yeah. By the way, I do think, before I remember the whole grand plan debate Obi-Wan, I did think them locking up Satine was a little strange, to be completely honest. I'm like, okay, you're locking up the former Prime Minister, the former Duchess of Mandalore, for the crime of having a governing style that you disagree with. Cool. But then I realized, oh yeah, they're trying to bait Obi-Wan, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like, I don't know if this might have been a little too much for some people, but I do feel like there should have been, as Satine walks away from the crowd who are cheering Viszla's name, she'd go, "So this is how liberty dies." Thunderous applause.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like if ever there was a moment.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it reminds me when Viszla's talking about how Satine has brought Mandalore to ruin. It reminds me of that line from Revenge of the Sith, which I'm sure, Davor, because I feel like you have like just all of Palpatine's lines from that movie memorized. You probably know this line that I'm about to say. The remaining Jedi will be hunted down and defeated. And all the senators around them just like cheer.
Yeah.
It's chilling. It's
Absolutely.
like you served along these people. They helped you, you helped them. And now they're being hunted down and defeated, and you're clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
anything else before the climactic fight at the end?
No, not really.
So I'll just say this before. Jacob, do you have anything, or do you want to go?
I thought the climactic fight. We gotta get there. It's pretty good.
We gotta get there. It is actually, in contrast to what I said about the revival fight, I actually do really like this duel. I think it's perfect in so many ways. First of all, I do like how many terrible, aggressive things happened when Satine was ruler of Mandalore in that throne room. It's 0. There are 3 fights in 3 seasons in the throne room alone.
Yeah.
How is Olmec asks Satine in prison, how is peace serving you now? I would turn the tables on them. How is violence serving you now? But yeah, I love this. I always love seeing. I was about to say, I wonder if they really like this, and I realized, oh yeah, somebody does really like this. I'm like, I really love seeing the Darksaber in action, and I'm like, I'm preaching to the choir here. Good job, Eli. You should go off. You should go off on how great the Darksaber is in this scene.
I mean, it's proof once again that this is not only a powerful weapon in terms of what it symbolizes, but just a powerful weapon as a weapon. But it depends on who's wielding it and like what they want, what they're going after, and like what they're willing to do to get what they want. And like if you're not, it's just so cool, guys.
It is.
It's just so cool.
It is most excellent.
My favorite shot probably in this episode is when Maul has the Darksaber in his hand and he ignites it and it splits his face.
Oh yeah, that's just at the very end, bro. I honestly think that the best moments of this scene of this duel are not the actual fighting, but it's the moments when Maul gets his lightsaber back and he ignites that, and you just see the fury, the just utter, so much like indignation and rage about the situation that's just been cooked in this dark side furnace, and now it's just pure lumps of hatred coal, basically. It's just refined to the most basic dark side form. And then of course the moment when he gets the Darksaber, when he actually takes the Darksaber.
I'm sorry,
It's just
Davor, by the
chilling.
way, your excellent title idea has now been contested by pure lumps of hatred coal.
I still like the
Rip to a real
I still
one.
like R.I.P. to a real one. R.I.P. to all the real ones.
Sometimes words come out of our mouth, and we don't understand what they mean until we say them. That is pure lumps of hatred coal for me.
I mean, he said dark side furnace, and I was like, where is he going with this metaphor?
I feel like I did not come up with that metaphor. I've definitely heard that in a Star Wars book talking about the furnace of the dark side. Maybe it's Mace Windu talking about Vapod or something. I'm not.
That sounds like
entirely sure.
from the Book of Sith, which is like, by the way,
Yeah, it was
if Jacob
probably from
ever
the-
needs
maybe
to
from the Book
reference
of
any
Sith.
book on this show, he will reference the Book of Sith.
Or the Jedi Path.
Or the Jedi Path.
If
I
you-
don't know
if
what
you
his
guys know
fascination
those
with.
books. But yeah, the Book of Sith and the Jedi Path. You gotta love them.
Yeah. Actually, my favorite of those is not actually either of them. My favorite of those. Do either of you have the Rebel Files?
I do not.
No.
Rebel Files is good. It's the only one that's canon out of all of them.
He's like. So wait, Rebel Files actually canon.
Yeah,
So they
Rebel
actually-
Files is
wow.
canon. And it deals with events from Rebels and Rogue One, all that kind of stuff.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's basically an account. It's an account from Mon Mothma's assistant Henry Underholt of the formation of the rebellion, and the Galactic Civil War. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I also like this. Did anybody hear? And I'm sure Meg, you probably heard this because this is from Trials of the Darksaber. Actually, as soon as Maul defeats Viszla, I hear in my head, history lesson. The Jedi won the war with Mandalore.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate for Mandalore. They have
Tricks like these will save your life a few times, maybe win a battle or two, but they're not a long-term strategy.
I mean, that Kanan quote is exactly what happens. Viszla, he's got all the gadgets, but
Yeah.
in the end,
Yeah.
Maul just overcomes all that.
I gotta recover from Trials of the Darksaber Cool, it's really quick. I'm fine.
It's such. Oh,
You gotta
it's so
recover
good.
as fast as we're recovered from those vamp braces. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I love that I know that episode so well. Let's see. Yeah. I love this too. When after Pre-Viszla's head falls to the ground, we get probably one of my favorite moments from Bo-Katan in this entire arc. No outsider will ever rule Mandalore. These are Mandalorian traditionalists, and they're defying their own tradition. They've been pushed far enough to defy the thing that keeps them ticking, basically. And I think it's a crazy move, but I think it's built up so well.
Yeah. I get how, like, on this last rewatch of, like, to prepare for this, like, I had never thought of it before, but, like, watching that whole scene, a whole duo, it gave me, like, major Black Panther vibes. It's basically like that scene. I mean, it's Black Panther if both of them were Killmonger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing, like, Killmonger showing up, challenging T'Challa to the fight, then he takes over, then it's like, who's loyal, who's not? He's the outsider, you know, making the claim to the throne and all that. Like, it's all of that stuff. It's a lot of that kind of thematic similarity.
Yeah. I want to bring this up again, too, because I just still struggle to believe this. Why, of all people, does Olmec say Satine killed Viszla? Everybody just goes along with that. I don't understand why.
I think it's just scapegoating.
I understand that, but, like, you know, think about it logically for a second, Mandalorian citizens. As Davor was saying, like, do these people even think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a little... Maybe it's a little questionable.
Yeah.
Satine, notorious pacifist.
I guess for me, like, that's the reason why it might be so shocking to them, is that she would never do that. And so what better way to, like, shock them into believing it than saying that that's what she did?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like,
that makes a lot of sense.
If it's someone so great, if it's so unbelievable,
it might
how could it not be true? Or if it's so unbelievable, it might just be true. So I think you're definitely onto something with that, actually. But yeah, what else do we have for Shades of Reason? Like,
yeah, I think
where did I can't remember when it actually ends.
It ends with Maul telling Olmec, "Go, rule my people," which is one of the most
that's a
lines ever.
Yeah. I cannot imagine Bo-Katan would be happy about that. Yeah, and I mean, for someone like her to see Mandalore getting taken over by an outsider, the fact that it's done through traditional ritual combat must only add insult to injury.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
So definitely see her. I mean, that obviously comes back in Clone Wars Season 7. But that's definitely an interesting moment where she kind of has to confront, well, what do I do when the traditions lead to a bad outcome?
Yeah.
So I think before we head on to the Lawless, I think we should mention, Davor, you set us up very nicely for this. I want to talk about Ian Abercrombie. R.I.P. to a real one. Literally a real one.
This is
because the Lawless is Abercrombie's final voice performance in Star Wars: The Clone Wars before his death.
And who did he voice?
Palpatine.
Oh, really? Wow.
Wait, I just realized something. Oh my god, I should this just came into my head. So he's taken over. The role of Palpatine is taken over by Tim Curry, who is trying his best in the last 2 seasons to do a Ian Abercrombie impression. So basically, you know what that means? The dead speak.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Somehow,
it was great.
Palpatine returned.
It was great talking with all of you. We had a great time. I'm out.
God.
Wow.
Apparently, my mission in this episode is just, okay, how many times can I bring up the Rise of Skywalker?
Too many. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People want to get onto the Lawless.
All right, so I'm up to
Yeah.
give the synopsis, right? All right, The
Yeah.
Lawless, my favorite episode of the Clone Wars. Excited about this one. So, the episode starts. We find Satine is imprisoned, and she is broken out by none other than her quote-unquote nephew, Corky Kryze.
I was going to go with son.
Along with Bo-Katan. They end up escaping the prison and they attempt to flee Mandalore. They are chased down by the Death Watch. And once they are at the dock, the shipping yard, or whatever it is, Satine manages to send out a distress message out to Obi-Wan to let him know that Mandalore, that basically her rule has ended and that she's been overthrown. We end up going to Coruscant, where the Jedi basically get this transmission, and you've got Yoda and Ki-Adi-Mundi there, and then they bring in Obi-Wan, and then they basically start talking about whether or not they should intervene. Obi-Wan actually is pushing to get involved. He's talking about, like, well, like, Satine has fallen, like, we can't just let Mandalore get taken over by, by these criminal factions, and Yoda and Ki-Adi-Mundi will probably talk about this more in the main part. They're citing all of the various political issues, the fact that Mandalore is a neutral system, and so therefore the Jedi can't intervene without approval for the Senate, and the Senate's not gonna, they're not gonna ratify aid to a neutral system. And so Obi-Wan, in defiance of that, ends up leaving for Mandalore, taking the Twilight. He ends up landing there. He dons some Mandalorian armor, which we will also talk about. And he ends up going and breaking out Satine a second time. But they end up basically trying to go back to escape. And they try to get on the Twilight, but then the Twilight is shot down. Once again, R.I.P. to a real one.
R.I.P. to a real one.
Yep.
I want to point out, by the way, before you continue, 2 Star Wars tropes. Ship gets destroyed, dressing up as the enemy. Go on.
Yes. And it is at that moment that Obi-Wan discovers that Maul is in fact behind all of this. And they are taken to the throne room, where basically the two of them kind of have a back and forth about the dark side and its temptation and its power and all of that. And, of course, as we all know, that is at that moment that Maul decides that he wants to inflict on Obi-Wan the same pain that he had been feeling ever since his defeat in their duel in Naboo. And he ends up murdering Satine, and Satine ends up dying in Obi-Wan's arms. Yet again, R.I.P. to a real one. Satine Kryze.
Keep going with that. You're going to be doing that. Like, hey, everybody, take a shot for every time.
Every time I say that.
All right, Peter.
And Obi-Wan is taken away to basically, live with his suffering, because Maul decides that he doesn't want to kill him. He just wants him to kind of endure with all the pain that he has inflicted on him. Ultimately, though, Bo-Katan, breaks Obi-Wan out of prison, and they end up escaping, and there's all of this fighting and bedlam that is ensuing on Mandalore. And as all of this is happening, Palpatine is back in Coruscant in his office, sensing all of this through the Force, and basically orders his ship to get prepared, because apparently he uses official Chancellor craft for his Sith business. Like, I don't know. But as all the fighting is happening, he ends up arriving on Mandalore and makes his way to the throne room and has a fairly epic confrontation with his former apprentice and his former apprentice.
I wouldn't even call it a confrontation, but I digress. Go on.
Yeah, we will talk more about that duel, I am sure, including to borrow a phrase from you, Eli, a slight logistical issue I have with that duel, but we will get to that. Ultimately, the two of them are both defeated. Savage is taken out. All right, Peter.
You're a real one.
Savage oppressed. And Maul is not killed, but he is defeated and inflicted upon with a torrent of force lightning. And Sidious assures him that he is not going to kill him, that he is in fact has other uses for him. And the episode basically ends with him force lightning Maul. And that is the Lawless.
That is an episode, first of all.
Yes.
It's funny because I remember specifically when he kills Satine. I've checked the episode timer on the episode. I'm like, we're halfway done with the episode. This feels like the conclusion of an episode.
Right.
It's so weird. This episode is paced so interestingly and not like other Clone Wars episodes. The fortune cookie is morality separates heroes from villains. Which I don't really feel like is a fortune cookie for the Lawless as much as it's a fortune cookie for Star Wars.
Yeah.
To quote Maz Kanata, and I have to do this because I love this quote, and it's going to all bring all of you back to this great little miniseries. The choices we make, the actions we take, moments, big and small, shape us into forces of destiny. Yeah. By the way, rip Force of Destiny, RIP to a real one. Oh my god. Take a shot!
Yep.
Oh my god. Anyway, but it's the choices we make of how to act that determines whether we're good or bad in the cosmic sense of things. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi like my father before me. Rey who? Rey Skywalker. I pledge myself to your teachings. I will do whatever you ask. Just help me save her life. All those are based on choices that people made to shape who they are. Also, I love how Maul is just like, so I'm gonna kill Satine and Obi-Wan's gonna break, right? That's gonna happen, right? And Obi-Wan's like, nope, I'm better than you. I'm not gonna break. And Maul's like, oh. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Damn it, Kenobi ruining my plans all over again. He wasn't really, it did seem like he wasn't really prepared for Obi-Wan to just absolutely bat him down.
Yeah.
He thought that was going to be the thing.
Yeah, he wasn't ready.
He was not ready. This is where the boulder starts rolling back down on Sisyphus. Sorry, Maul. Yeah. Any thoughts about the fortune cookie? Morality separates heroes from villains.
No, not particularly.
I don't think this one kind of just feels like a truism. It does, so it's not really unique to this episode, I think.
To be completely honest with you, I was shocked that this was a fortune cookie, let alone the fortune cookie for the Lawless. Of all the episodes,
yeah.
Morality separates heroes from villains? Really? That's it? I don't know. Anyway. Anyone's thoughts about the beginning of the episode? I have something, but I'm gonna just leave it to somebody else to open the conversation. But, let's see. Or I can just do it anyway.
Why don't you start it off?
Okay. I just like this. Obi-Wan, I need your help. I know I'm a sucker for callbacks, apparently. But come on, it was right there. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah.
It was right there. You just had to say it. To remind us that, yes, this saga with, Satine Kryze and Darth Maul is somehow the same saga as Luke Skywalker and R2-D2. Don't ask how. Just know that it is. 6 degrees it out. Also, Davor, you mentioned about the Mandalorian armor that Obi-Wan uses.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the other armor that he uses. Rako Hardeen's armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I love that. There's a little callback. He's using Rako Hardeen's armor. I'm like, I wonder if he told anybody on the way. Oh, like, oh wait, who are you? Oh, I'm Rako Hardeen. Wait, wasn't Rako Hardeen? Wasn't he the one who murdered that Jedi? Oh yeah, long story. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and also the Twilight blows up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does anybody else forget that that's in this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are like
Yeah, it is,
16
yeah.
other things going on in this episode, but like the Twilight blows up. Like at least with the Razor
Yeah.
Crest in Mandalorian, they like pause for a second and really let you process the fact that they just blew up the main ship.
Mm-hmm.
The Twilight's just like, yeah, it's gone. Whatever. Yeah. One last thing, and I'll open it up backhand. Why does Obi-Wan not know who Satine's sister is? He was on Mandalore with her for a year. They, like, fell in love. How does he not know?
This is why we need this story. Where is it? We need all of this explained.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard a certain somebody wants to do that. So
Someday.
just like go with. I have some some ideas in my head about what Ochi was doing in between 6 and 7. But apparently Adam Christopher is gonna run in with that and say no thanks. But that's fine. I'm sure his ideas are gonna be good.
To go like a little bit back to like him first arriving, and then also that scene where he's, you know, talking with Yoda and Kiadi about getting involved and such. Like, I mean, there's a couple things happening there. Like, one is, of course, and we've talked about this a little bit earlier in this episode, but it's like we get a little bit more of like the political Jedi and the way that they're kind of negotiating, you know, the kind of morals, values thing versus like the raw politics of like, what can we do? And we have to go to the Senate and all of that. And like, you're seeing some of that. But I also do have like, I have a little bit of like frustration with Obi-Wan here. And it's mainly like just, you know, in the context of his larger, you know, story in the prequels, and then like particularly his story with Anakin, which is like, he gets this like direct order from Yoda saying like, we can't intervene, like we can't get involved. Then it's immediately like cut to him leaving, you know? And it's like, I think about that scene in Attack of the Clones, like when him and Anakin are on the gunship and Anakin's like ordering them to turn around. And he straight up says to Anakin, like, don't let your personal feelings get in the way.
If Padme were in your place, what would she do?
Yeah, here he is like straight up defying the Grand Master of the Jedi Council and like doing his own thing. And even like he has this line when he breaks out Satine, when he's still like in the Mandalorian armor, and she says like, "Oh, come to do more of your master's bidding," and he says, "I do my own bidding." If Anakin did any of that shit, like you would not tolerate any of that, like him saying stuff like that, doing stuff like that. So I just think about like, I see stuff like that, and I just think about like the missed opportunities to like have a real like heart to heart with Anakin about like the tensions between being a Jedi and those duties, and then like your own emotions, because Obi-Wan is dealing with that also, and he sees it reflected in like with Anakin and with Padme, and it's like he has personal experience with that, like, and just never like to the extent that we know of doesn't really engage with that, and basically being like, I get what you're going through.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just thinking about Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship with that, and about, you know, don't let your personal feelings get in the way. That scene when Obi-Wan rescues Satine is portrayed as a badass moment. Mm-hmm. Is portrayed as like, oh, he's here to save the day. Cut to a season later when Padme's been imprisoned by the banking clan. And Anakin comes to rescue her. Now, Anakin actually goes on a bit of an abusive tear then, but... And by a bit, I mean such an abusive tear that I have full theories about that kind of stuff, but, like, notice the differences. They're both walking to save the women they love.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan's heroic. Anakin is almost ominous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Obi-Wan's gonna stay a good guy, and Anakin's not, so we need to show that somehow, I guess.
Right.
It just seems like a weird inconsistency there. But yeah. You want to get to the death?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, let me just back up and say, I don't know if either of you saw, I made that edit of all the Clone Wars episodes with the music behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I spent days on that weird project, but anyway. So, the one I did for this episode, I linked up Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You to the moment where Maul stabs Satine. Talk about making a scene more heartbreaking than it needs to be.
Yeah.
I literally just paused there after I finished editing that clip, and I'm like, I am a monster. What have I done?
There's Anakin in Palpatine's office.
What have I done? You're
Drop your
fulfilling
lightsaber.
You're fulfilling your destiny,
Destiny.
Anakin.
Oh god.
Anakin turning into Darth Vader, I would go again, RIP to a real one. Was that me trying to force it in? Yes. But do I care? No. Anyway, but yeah, yeah. I love that Obi-Wan doesn't break. Obi-Wan doesn't break, it makes this episode for me.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Yeah. Because like, and again, like, you know, obviously you'll get to this down the road, but like the way that links up to and ultimately gets paid off in Twin Sons, like there's a
look what I've risen
storyline
above.
there. Mm-hmm. Look what I've risen above.
Yep. I now I'm seeing that like it's you look what I've risen above, and there's like a silent U there.
Yeah.
That's something I never really can. Wow, that just makes me like that episode more, and I didn't think that there was any more I could like that episode.
Yeah. And again, to go back to something that I mentioned at the start when we were talking about revival, and it's a through line to this episode, and of course, ultimately, you know, a through line to Twin Sons, like Maul killing Satine's like another instance, like he can't break the cycle. He's like, I suffered because of you all these years, now you gotta suffer too. Like, he has to perpetuate it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is a weird thought I've been having. Okay, I'm not one to ship characters in Star Wars normally, but I have to like step away from that a little bit for this one. Does anybody ship Obi-Wan and Bo-Katan? Maybe what I said was blasphemy, but I think it'd be an interesting ship.
I'm not familiar with that.
No.
I don't know if there's a community.
I can't say that has ever crossed my mind.
No.
I'm sorry for any images that may or may not be going through your heads right now. So I probably should say that. Yeah. And then there's of course that great shot of the hangar opening up.
Oh yeah.
And Obi-Wan seeing the carnage.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That we get that gets paralleled later in Rebels. In Heroes on Mandalore, I think it's maybe in the second episode, there's a shot where like when they're like fighting in the Imperial facility or whatever, Ezra is standing and it opens the hangar in there, and it's a similar shot.
Interesting.
It's from behind. Yeah.
I was thinking of the episode A Friend in Need where Ahsoka stands similarly to that. The Welcome to Death Watch scene.
Oh yeah.
Which is not like an identical, but it's pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have anything before we get to the Dark Lord of the Sith?
No.
Um.
No.
I have one thing, which is
Go ahead.
this is one of many reasons I'm excited for the Kenobi series. Because like this episode and so many other things we see, Kenobi does not break. He doesn't ever like deal with any of the stuff that's happening to him. Yet when we see him in Twin Suns, he's just like, he's come so far. I want to see him dealing with all this trauma. I want to see him like coming to terms with like think of every terrible thing that happens to him like within like I don't know what the exact timeline is between like this like losing Satine and like Revenge of the Sith and all that. I don't know, but it's pretty quick and it's a lot. He loses literally everything, and
Oh yeah.
he eventually he has to deal with that somehow. I want to see that.
I do too. I'm gonna plant a thought in everyone's mind that I just thought of. Oh my god, this would be... Imagine Ewan saying Satine as Obi-Wan.
Oh.
We need that now, don't
Oh, we need that to happen. That's gotta happen.
Wow.
Ah!
Oh god, that's gotta
Oh,
happen.
I'm broken. Oh, no. Oh god.
It's like the moment we all need from the Rogue One novelization of Forrest Whitaker saying Steela before he dies on Jeddah.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yep. Okay, here we go. R.I.P. to a real one, Savage Opress, Darth Sidious, boom. Yeah. This is the first time we see Sidious duel in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
This is the first time we see Sidious not in a hologram in the Clone Wars, I found out, actually.
Mm-hmm.
This is Darth freaking Sidious.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a couple of things. Like one thing that I noticed, like in the scene, again for the first time, like rewatching it for this, is in the scene when he's on Coruscant and he's meditating. Like, I don't know if they did this. I mean, probably they did do this on purpose. But if you look at like the lighting, only the bottom part of his face is illuminated. Like only basically from the nose down is lit, and then everything above it is in darkness. Like I love that. And then it's like, yeah, just like everything like from his arrival on, like I think when on my show when I talked about the duel, I think in an early episode, like I referred to it as Force Unleashed Palpatine. Like, I mean, that is pretty much it. Like when he gets off the shuttle and like the two Mandalorians are there and he just like force chokes them like immediately. When he does the same thing when he shows up in the throne room. We get, we've been talking about, Star Wars quotes and nod to other things like Maul sitting on the throne room. What does he say? A presence I haven't felt since. Like the Vader line.
Kenobi.
Yeah. There's so much great, like they're great like dual moments. So again, we'll talk about it. There's some great there's some of my favorite Palpatine lines are in this duel. Yeah.
Ooh, actually, can I say one of my favorite Palpatine lines that's totally in this episode?
Yeah.
Like 100% in this episode. He's shocking Maul. Please, spare me! Have mercy! Sorry, mercy machine broke. So, true fact, Jacob was the first person to send me that meme. And now I just think of it like as part of the episode. So...
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, am I the only one to think this fight wasn't really a fight?
I mean, it is the case that is like, despite the fact that it is, 2-on-1, like, they are so overwhelmingly outmatched by Sidious that it just doesn't, like, even if you think about, like, even if you take like Savage for instance, like the things we've seen, like we talked about earlier in this episode when we were talking about Revival, like that he takes out a Jedi Master. We see him earlier. I'm forgetting exactly the two Jedi we see him first kill, like on his very first mission. Like we've seen like how powerful he is, and the fact that like Palpatine is able to so effortlessly handle him, and even Maul rather effortlessly. Like it's not hard.
He killed Qui-Gon.
It almost feels as if he's just toying.
Yeah, he is toying with them. He is just playing with them.
Yeah. There's literally at one point, it's like one of my favorite like little things in the duels, like when he separates them briefly and he has this moment where like Palpatine pauses and like he cracks his neck. Like he does this move. Like just before he gets back into the yeah, like that, exactly. Like just before he gets into the fight, back in.
It makes literally no sense. And then as I think I've heard a Star Wars podcast or YouTuber call it the butterfly block, where he puts the two sabers behind his head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
It makes no sense, but he can do it because he's Palpatine.
He's just having too much fun at that point. Like, come on.
It's like I don't have enough fiery coal in my dark side furnace, as Jacob was saying. And so I just gotta get some more. Yeah. By the way, does Savage's death, even though I don't like his character, does Savage's death break anybody else?
It was pretty sad.
It is, yeah. When he's
There's a moment.
Yeah, when he's apologizing to Maul and is saying, I'm an unworthy apprentice, like I never was. Yeah, just that notion that, like, he dies thinking that, like, he failed somehow, that, like, he wasn't worthy enough, when it was, in fact, that, like, he was just manipulated this whole time and, like, put up in a situation where he was basically put in a no-win scenario. Like, there was no version where he was going to win against Sidious. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad because he really never had a choice. He was plucked from his home, forced to kill his brother, forced to turn into this murderous monster, all just because he was like in the wrong place at the wrong time. Really.
I like how Davor skipped conveniently the one line I wanted to mention, which is maybe my favorite line that Clancy Brown ever says in animated Star Wars. I'm not like you. The way he says that line will like forever stay with me.
I'm not like you, I never was. So sad.
Just like the pause he does between the not and like is just so heartbreaking and so powerful. Yeah. I also, by the way, let me just note before we wrap things up with the episodes, I love how, like, 10 minutes ago this arc was not about Palpatine. But the arc ends with Palpatine winning anyway!
Yeah.
How does he do that?
He just finds
he
he
makes
just
things
finds
that
a
aren't
way.
about him and he wins.
He makes everything about him.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. What are people's overall thoughts about the Lawless? If no one else has any other thoughts or like about the arc in general.
I mean, great episode, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heart-wrenching, really.
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I did want to bring up briefly about the duel, because I sort of teased in my episode synopsis about a logistical issue I had with the duel.
Oh yes.
And it's like, it's not one of those like, it's not one of those things like, oh, this ruins it for me because I love this duel. Like, it's really, really good. But it's one of those things that like always like gives me an issue like when I watch it because like I can't make it make sense to me, which is that like, why does Maul wait until Savage is taken out to ignite the Darksaber? He's fighting with just one lightsaber, like his half lightsaber, all the way up to that point. Then Savage dies. Then he takes out the Darksaber. Like, why didn't you start off with it?
I think maybe it's because obviously you're gonna have to really switch it up if you're fighting with two blades in terms of your style. And for Maul, who is accustomed to a double blade or just a plain old lightsaber at that point, I think it's only when he gets really desperate that he decides he might have to do that. Because when it's a 2-on-1, he's probably thinking, okay, we're probably not going to defeat Sidious. We just got to play it cool and try and get out of here. But then once Savage is gone, like, he's desperate, you know, and he's just lost his brother. So I think he's kind of willing to take the risk of probably a fighting style that he doesn't have much experience with, if it gives him some advantage. That was my interpretation of it.
I would agree with Jacob that that's what I was going to say. I just imagine Maul thinking in his head, oh, I have the Darksaber. I don't need this. You kidding me? I don't need this. And then Savage dies, and he's like, I might need this. I'm just imagining him being like, yeah, on the second thought, maybe one more blade at any advantage I can get, honestly. Yeah. So now the overall thoughts. If Meg, you don't have anything else to.
I do have a Darksaber theory, because of course I do, and because I made you tell me what your gripe with this duel was, so that I could think of a counter to it before this episode. Even Maul knows at this point that the Darksaber is more symbolic than anything else, and that there is this sense of like, if you're holding that saber, it's because you're worthy of holding it. It's because you won it somehow, you gained it somehow, and you are worthy of using it in combat, or however you are going to win whatever battle you're in. And this is the point in the fight where Maul realizes, like, oh, like, I'm never going to live up to whatever potential I thought Sidious would let me live up to. The one thing that I thought of with this is, like, this is the moment where Maul realizes, like, the only person that's going to make him feel worthy of anything is himself. So that's when he ignites the Darksaber, because he, in some way, feels worthy of winning something for himself and not under anyone else's care.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like a plausible theory to me.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So overall thoughts about this arc, about the 4. I can go first if.
Yeah, go for it.
Gathering. Yeah. I generally like this. I like Shades of Reason is ironically, I think, no, it's Lawless is my favorite. Never mind. I was about to say Shades of Reason, but Lawless and then Shades of Reason very, very closely. But I really like this. It's not, as I said a few episodes ago. It's not, as I said a few episodes ago, my favorite arc of season 5. That is still, and I'm saying this again because I'm saying it again, Jacob. It's still Onderon. I know you don't like it, but I don't care. Anyway, it's a beautiful arc. It does some things that I love. It does some things that I don't, but it's not as many, of course. The one gripe I guess I have with this arc, if I had to say anything, is I'm not a fan of when Star Wars goes ridiculously dark. That's just not my personal taste. But that's not even a gripe with the Star Wars. It's just a gripe with me. It's just not something I'm personally into. We all have our different types of Star Wars that we're into. I'm into a little bit more of the lighter, fun stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not as into the crazy dark stuff. But I can see how some people are. Jake, do you want to take it from there, or Davor, Meg, do you?
Yeah, I absolutely love this arc. I'd never really watched it like this before, having Revival in there. I really think that changed the experience. It kind of made it feel a bit more whole, and I think it helped make Revival stand a bit better than it does in the normal episode. Oh, excuse me. In the normal episode chronology. So I really like this. I enjoyed getting to see Maul in action. Obviously, it hit very hard at times emotionally. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Big fan.
Yeah, no, I think this is a really excellent arc. It is also not my favorite arc of season 5. That would be Ahsoka's trial. But
oh yeah.
I really love it. I think, at the time when basically like this was the end of the Mandalore arc, like before we got season 7 and came back, I think it did a great job of resolving a bunch of different storylines, whether it is you're talking about the Savage storyline, whether you're talking about Satine's story and all of that, and even, again, pre-season 7, wrapping up kind of Maul's story in there. And, like, it's funny because, like, Maul is, obviously he's not original to the Clone Wars, but he is, like, one of the most important characters in that show in terms of, like, what the show does for him and in terms of his role in it. But, like, he's not actually in a lot of it. Like, he's basically in these episodes that we talked about and then the end of season 4 ones. I'm like, that's it. But, like, the arc allows him to have such an importance in the story without actually giving him a whole lot of actual episodes and screen time that, yeah, I think for all of those reasons, like, it is among the strongest arcs that we get in the entire show.
Well, 3 of these 4 episodes have 3 of my favorite things in Star Wars. That is Mandalorians, the Darksaber, and the rightful ruler of Mandalore, Our Lady Bo-Katan Kryze. So,
We all stand.
you may guess that I love these episodes. I was rewatching these for this, and I didn't remember so much of them, and I don't know why that is because I love them so much. But, like, there's something about being able to rewatch something that you haven't seen in a while, and it almost feels like you're seeing it for the first time again, but it's also familiar. So it was a great time. I love Mandalorians, everything. I'm having a great time.
It's a great time talking about this stuff. Before we go, I think it's time. I know we're running a little long here, but I think it's time. We'll try to make this quick to get to everybody's favorite part of Star Wars in the Galaxy. What you've brought me today is worth 1/4 portion. So Jacob and I drafted 3 6 degrees each, one to give to every other member of this call. We can decide. Jacob, you want to go first? Give your first one away.
Yeah, who's this for? Is this for you or Meg?
You can decide. You can decide.
I guess I'll give it up for grabs then. But could anyone in 6 steps or less, as per the rules of 6 degrees, connect Satine Kryze and Admiral Holdo?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I tried to make these somewhat thematic for today's.
What?
Oh, that's cool because I didn't.
What?
I have it. All right. Satine is, of course, connected to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is at the birth of Leia Holdo.
Nice.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty good. That was very fast. Okay, I'm gonna assign mine to somebody.
So much longer.
Let's see, who am I gonna assign mine to? I'm gonna assign. Oh, this is a fun one. I'm gonna assign this one to Meg because of reasons. No reasons other than you might be able to figure out the thing I want you to figure out, or people to figure out. Orson Krennic. Paige Tico.
Oh, God. I'm the worst at these. Hold on.
Orson Krennic. Paige Tico. Oh, man.
Oh, wait.
That's a hard one. I cannot think.
Oh.
Wait, does he ever interact with Vader?
Who? Krennic? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He does? Okay, yeah. Wait, why did I even...
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, director.
It's late. It's fine. Because what I'm thinking right now is Krennic, Vader, Leia, Rose, Paige. But do Leia and Rose ever interact? This is why I'm terrible at this.
Technically in the cave on Crate, like they're both there.
Yeah. Were you thinking of something specific?
So I realized why I did this. This is another plug for Terrifying Tales. Orson Krennic, Van A, Poe Dameron, Paige Tico.
Oh,
He's in a
fine.
Lego star.
Is that even a lot? You know what? Whatever. Fine. Did you really think I was...
I was wondering, since you'd seen it, I was wondering, would you make the Poe Van A connection? Because I realized when I was watching it, oh my god, Poe and Van A, 2 different eras. All the 6 degrees possibilities are endless.
Oh god.
My lord, Director Krennic is here. I love Van A so much. Go ahead with your second one, Jacob.
Right.
Assign it to Meg or
Once
me.
again, for anyone who wants, I guess, Hondo Ohnaka and Mas Ameda.
I can take this one if you want, Meg.
Sure.
All right, go for it.
Hondo, Dooku, Palpatine, Masameda.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Hondo, Anakin, Palpatine, Masameda. Hondo, Obi-Wan, Palpatine, Masameda.
My brain
All 3 can work. It's okay. I tried to throw a sneaky at you with the Van A thing, but okay. I'm gonna assign this one to Davor actually.
All right.
Fennec Shand, Orn Frita.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Fennec Shand, Hunter, Crosshair, Frita.
That actually works. Yeah, I did not think of using Bad Batch for that. That's a good one.
Davor's too good.
Jacob, do your final one, and then I'm gonna do my final one, which is gonna
goes
trip
out to
you up.
whoever.
So, Meg.
Olmec and Makith Tua, the 2 figureheads, the Clone Wars figurehead and the Rebels figurehead.
Who? Can I just quit now?
Wait, who is this?
Makith Tua, she's the woman who's kind of in charge on Lothal in season 1 of Rebels.
Oh, Minister Tua.
So
Okay, I didn't know.
Minister Tua. Yeah.
I didn't know her from her first name.
Minister Tua. I should start just using titles because
All
Yeah,
right.
you
that's
should.
way better.
All right.
But yeah.
Okay. Olmec, Bo-Katan, Sabine, Tua.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I thought Sabine was gonna lead somewhere.
Yeah.
Because she's both Mandalorian and in Rebels.
It works.
Okay, Jacob,
Not fair.
I have this one specifically because So, Jacob, remember when I just cackled aloud before we invited them on, realizing I had just done the best thing ever?
I do, yes.
I'm giving this to you now.
All right.
So, you're welcome.
Here we go.
Captain Phasma and the Big Jesus from Nomad Droids.
What? The big wait. The big zoo from Nomad Droid. The big Jesus from Nomad Droids.
He's the one that R2 falls on.
What is that?
Who is
What?
the guy
the leader of the tiny
Yes.
civilized, the tiny
The Big
civilization.
Jesus.
Bro, this is the most forgotten about episode of the Clone Wars, and for good reason.
Exactly, and that's why I picked it.
The entire episode is just like a fever dream. Okay, Captain Phasma to the Big Jesus. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh, hang on. Let me think.
There's
Okay.
one path out of this. Actually, technically two, but
Okay. Okay. The Big Jesus, R2D2, Anakin. No, R2D2, Leia, Finn, Phasma.
I just figured out actually another path. Do you want me to tell you?
Sure, yeah, why not?
You can get rid of Leia and Finn and replace them with BB-8, and that'll fit.
Oh, really? Of course. I always forget about the droids.
Yeah.
In our
This one was
60.
literally forcing you to think about the droids because the only two routes out were C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah. And I
No
forgot
one
about
messes with the
BB-8.
Big Jesus. What the Big Jesus says goes.
Right, you got.
Okay. Okay, but I think that is going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Meg and Davor, thank you for sticking out this very long recording session with us. You want to plug your stuff before you go?
You first.
Oh God. You know what? The easiest place you can find me and all my things is on Twitter at Meg Dowell, because that's where I link all the things that I do. Youtini.com. It's great.
Yeah, and I host a large review of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. You can find that basically wherever you listen to podcasts, probably wherever you're listening to this, you can find the show. And you can also find the show on Twitter at A Large Review Pod.
You can, of course, find In a Galaxy at In a Galaxy Pod on Twitter, at Star Wars In a Galaxy on Instagram, on Spotify and Anchor and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcast, we will be there. Thank you so much to Meg and Davor for coming on. This is like your 8th or 9th time combined. This is crazy.
Pretty much.
I still can't believe this, but thanks so much for coming on. And next week, I need to see what we're doing next week because we're recording this out of order. Next week, we are going to be looking at the Ahsoka trial arc of the Clone Wars. But we're not going to be doing it alone. This episode deals with a lot of legal analysis. So we're bringing on an expert. Star Wars fan, lawyer, and trivia champion, Mr. Thomas Harper. And he will be on with us analyzing the law of the Ahsoka trial arc. We're very excited for that. And in the meantime, may the Force be with you always.